What is going on, everybody out there? This is Jake James Lugo here with the Koalition.com. I'm with my two boys, Richard Bailey Jr. and Gary Swaby. This is going to be our Batman, the Telltale Series discussion, a spoiler cast, as well as a huge in-depth discussion about the game that we've just already finished season 1. Episode 5 came out not too long ago, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty about Batman, the Telltale series. We're going to talk about everything specifically about it, our experiences and stuff. But let me kick it over to my boys over here. So, Rich, what's going on? Welcome, Gary. Welcome. What's going on with you dudes?
Hey, what's up, man? I literally just finished the episode like an hour before we started recording, so yeah, it's fresh in my mind. So I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Cool. Now, Rich, how you holding up over there? You enjoying Batman?
Yes, good. Yes, definitely. Good afternoon, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, glad to be on the show. Awesome series. I think it's probably one of Telltale's best in recent memory, but we'll get into that discussion further soon.
Cool. So overall, I think we're all in a consensus that we enjoy Batman the Telltale series. I mean, there's some issues that I think we all have with it, myself included. But I think that we could generally say that this is a pretty good game. This is a pretty good Telltale game that people are going to enjoy. Would you say that, Gary?
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, it's one of my favorite Telltale games and series that they've come out with. I feel like it's a great mix of action and detective stuff, and you're having the discussions and the story beats and everything. I feel like it was paced very well, and it just all blends together well, and it tells us a Batman story that's really unique and original. I feel like Telltale got a lot of leeway in terms of coming up with the story. They got a lot of creative control, and they did things that we've never really seen before in the Batman universe. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of original stuff that went into this, and they were very clear, even when the series first started, that this was their Batman story. Like they were gonna have nods and homages to like the 75 years of Batman that's been around. I mean, it even goes down to the title sequence. Every time you boot up the game, they have those little montage and little shots of like the Grant Morrison, the Bob Kane, as well as the Jeff Johns stuff that they had, the different covers and panels. And that's cool, but it is still essentially their story based off, these characters and such. Now, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I enjoyed a lot as a Batman fan. Well, even before I get into that, I should say, to preface everything, this is really the first Telltale game that I really got into. I mean, I've played some of the other Telltale games, but I never really got into them really hardcore like that. The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, Game of Thrones, even Minecraft story mode and such. There's a lot of stuff that Telltale has done. You could go even all the way back to like Jurassic Park and such, but none of those really resonated with me in the same way that this did. This could possibly be because it is Batman, because it's a character in a comic series that I know and I love and such. But this is the first one that I really sat down and really took my time to play through all 5 episodes that it came out and such. Like, what were you thinking about this when you first saw Batman? I mean, we saw this back at E3, Rich, all the way back when they first showed off the game. But give me some impressions of what you thought when you first saw Batman, the Telltale series.
All right. Well, I know when we first saw it at E3, there was some technical issues at the demo that we had. I recall that WB was also in attendance, so that didn't look too good for WB to see that. But
that was hilarious.
Oh yeah, it was hilarious. Eventually they got it to work, and one of the major aspects about the game, like I said, this is the reason why it's so unique, is because you're also playing as Bruce Wayne. I feel like a lot of times you play these games, these different Batman games, you don't really get a chance to experience things as Bruce Wayne, make the decisions that you have to make. And I think was a very smart way for them to handle telling the story. One thing I do want to say, and this may be considered a little controversial, but I have to say it. Out of every Batman property that I have seen this year, including Batman v Superman and The Killing Joke, I personally think this is the best Batman product that I have had a chance to experience all of this year. Because Batman v Superman, I was not a fan with how they handled certain things with Ben Affleck's Batman. And then for The Killing Joke, there was controversy behind that, all because of how they made Batgirl. So I definitely think that this without a doubt was the best that I had to experience because of the storytelling, because of the fact that they so many things that you thought that you knew about Batman, they turned on its head and they made it into something different. Um, so I have to give Telltale props for that.
Yeah, that's understandable, and I could totally get that. I don't necessarily agree too much. I think that with all the stuff that we've seen of Batman, this year, and even arguably towards the end of last year and stuff, I think this really ranks up there. Again, I have my own little issues that we'll get into when we start talking about the story and the characters and such. But for a first season, like their first attempt at this world and these characters, or just the DC universe in general, I thought it was a very good attempt and a very good execution with what went down with Batman the Telltale series. But let's talk about story. Again, we're gonna get into spoilers, guys. So if you haven't already played all the episodes of Batman, prepare yourself because we are gonna get into just about all the important details, and we're gonna have some spoilers for what happens in Batman the Telltale series. So again, you've already been forewarned. But let's talk about the story. Like, what did you guys think of when it came to the way that they built up this world, this specific, Batman world, Gotham City, when you first played the first episode of Batman?
Yeah, I mean, I liked that first episode a lot, especially with the Falcone stuff. I've always been, intrigued by the Falcones in the comics and stuff. Like any story that has that family is quite interesting, like the Long Halloween and Dark Victory and stuff like that. So it was good that they managed to incorporate them, and I like how it opens with Bruce Wayne who's supporting Harvey Dent's campaign, and then they're throwing this big party. The party was a great way to start because then you get introduced to all the characters, and then just the way Falcone walks in, and it was really good to see that. And then you had hidden characters there as well that come into play later on. So it was a great setup, and I like how it progressed throughout the series, and it kind of became two separate conflicts that Batman and Bruce Wayne is facing. But we'll get into that later. But what did you think, Rich?
Yeah, without a doubt, the way everything was set up. After I completed the first episode and the cliffhanger of the information that is revealed at the end of that episode, it's like, oh, interesting. Very, very intriguing because, normally I would think, how you set up a action series. Obviously, Batman or the hero, basically, they go after the villain and then that's it. So I really wasn't sure, after we had saw the initial footage, what other villains were going to actually play such a heavy role in the game. Then obviously we meet Penguin, and then we meet all these other people, Catwoman, so on and so forth, and of course Harvey Dent. So to see all that come together, I'm actually surprised they fit all those villains into the entire season, because obviously as you get later into the episode, then there are other characters such as Zaz, and of course everyone's favorite patient, the Joker. So I thought that was interesting, but we'll get deeper into that because I do have a couple of complaints about that. But continue.
Yeah, to kind of like, just speak overall in general. I mean, we're starting off at episode 1, but we're going to kind of be going back and forth between all the episodes because I think like there's a lot to unpack with this series. One of the things that I felt at the time when I was first starting episode 1 and stuff, it was a little bit rocky for me because I felt that not only they did almost the kind of same thing which you find in almost every Batman story. They always go back to the night that Bruce's parents were murdered, and they do their own kind of like interpretation of it. And the way that kind of progresses as you go through the series and such, I didn't necessarily like the way that it kind of like weaved itself into the plot in particular ways. Like the way that they do it in this game that's different than previous iterations, that Bruce's parents weren't always all that good. And they try to make it so that way there's this strong connection to some of the villains and some of the characters that you meet up with later on in the series, where Bruce's parents, Bruce's father specifically, was dealing with the mob, dealing with the Falcones, and dealing with all these other characters and all these other people that come into play in later episodes. And at first, I thought like the idea of it and like toying with the idea of whether that's true or it's not was kind of cool. I think when they kind of doubled down on it, when it was like, oh, Bruce's father was literally like this messed up, well, it wasn't a messed up person, but he did these horrible things to people in Arkham Asylum that you find out later on. Like, I thought like maybe that was pushing the envelope a little bit too much just for the sake of being different. Because I felt that as you went along, as you played each episode, stuff like that didn't progress. Like, they started off with great points, like what Gary mentioned with the Falcones, that dichotomy, dealing, being both Batman and Bruce Wayne and dealing with certain situations, both with the mob and also your image in the face of, in the eyes of Gotham and the city itself. I felt like that dichotomy and the whole types of like the conflict between all these different things happening at once was great. But as you went on with each episode, I felt like they lost that. But again, that's just from my experience. Gary, like, what did you think about all that as you progressed and played through the game?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like when it was his father was dealing with the Falcones and the mob and everything, I thought that was an interesting spin to take on it, and we've never really seen that before because we're used to seeing Bruce's parents painted as these straight and narrow people who are victims of violence pretty much. But the fact that they kind of tainted them and made him corrupt, that was a really interesting spin to take. And but later on, with the whole Arkham Asylum stuff, I agree that starts to it just doesn't have the same effect. It starts to get a bit out of control at that point. But I did like it when it was just he was dealing with the mob.
Yeah, and I felt like at some point they lost a lot of like what they were trying to build up. Like they went into a little bit more outrageous territory, like when you start getting towards episode 3 and 4 and stuff, where I feel like one of the things that I've had a problem with the entire series is that certain plot points are wrapped up so quickly. Where Falcone, in the way that he pretty much dies, or he pretty much his whole story arc wraps up early on in the series, I felt that was a little bit rushed. I mean, it was kind of a cool way to implement the whole, if you're going to be a good or a bad Batman, or a hero or an anti-hero type of Batman in the eyes of the city, depending on what your choices made and stuff. But as you went towards, episode 3, 4, and 5, towards the end, that was kind of lost. And I felt like that, if depending on the decisions you made in like the first episode or the second episode, that was the direction you were going to take for the rest of the game. And it really didn't really influence as much of the stuff later on in the series and such. Now, one of the things I will say, I just want to add, like, one of the things that I will say was that the whole scene when they go back to Crime Alley and he actually is at the place where his parents are murdered, I totally did not buy the way that they did that, where he was remembering what was going on and using the virtual reality stuff, with the bat suit. Well, not really with the bat suit, but like, pretty much remembering what was happening and getting like these flashbacks of what was going on the night that his parents were killed. And then the way how he figured out what actually went down between his parents and the mob, like, I just didn't buy that. That totally pulled me out of the experience.
Yeah, I think they just kind of threw that in there just because they thought it would be cool to analyze his parents' death and stuff. But that didn't need to be there. And as for Falcone, I think he was pretty much just there as a plot device to introduce the whole concept of, Bruce's father dealing with the mob. And then, because obviously that particular plot device it questions Bruce's own reputation within Gotham. So I think he was just there for that purpose. So then it was easy to dispose of him in the story because the main conflict is going to be between those two characters that we know. But go ahead, Rich, because I know you had something to say.
Yeah, well, let me go ahead and start by saying this. I think we can all agree that the decision to go back to the parents, I do agree that that was a problem. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm glad that the upcoming Spider-Man movie is not going to show Uncle Ben dying once again. We don't need to see that all over again. But I understand they were trying to tell a story that probably could have been better executed. But to go to dive deeper into the psyche of his parents, namely his father, and the fact that he did all this gruesome stuff, I personally felt like they could have played up more when Batman had certain choices. Like, you recall that there were a lot of times we saw in each episode where he could have been a lot more violent, a lot more brutal. I don't really think they really fully pushed that to the limit in terms of what you could do, because that could have been a way to show that, yes, Bruce does have a darker side. he's not necessarily going to do something that's always positive. So they possibly could have done more with that. But with that said, yeah, I could definitely see how you guys would definitely complain about the way they handled the whole parents thing. I guess you can say the forensics type of stuff. I did like some of that stuff as it got down into, when it came to actually investigating the crime scenes, the clues and stuff like that. I did like how some of that stuff was done. But, obviously, if you do too much of that, it's something that a lot of people may not necessarily like because, it's a lot of trying to figure things out. But
yeah, I think it got annoying in particular in the last episode, because in the
yes,
last episode you just kind of want
Yes.
to finish things, but then it kind of slows down the pace because you have to figure out what happened to Alfred and all this stuff. Like,
absolutely. That last episode, yes. Yeah, a little too much of that.
Like here's the thing, those sections when you were analyzing, you were looking at stuff and you were trying to put pieces together and what happened in certain scenarios, that didn't bother me as much as like, they did it in like the most random spots sometimes. And like, sometimes things kind of didn't make sense. You kind of had to reach a little bit and suspend your disbelief in some sections, but they were good compliments to some of the action. Like, I think some of the action sequences when you're fighting as Batman, or even when you're fighting as Bruce, because I think it's like episode 3, I think it's where him and Catwoman are in a bar and stuff, and they're about to get into a bar fight with like a bunch of thugs that were there. Those were kind of cool, and they were well handled for what they were. I think that in some episodes, though, there was a few like instant death sequences where you had to redo the entire sequence like that. I thought those were oddly placed. In some cases where you can mess up on all the quick time events or mess up on all the inputs and stuff and be totally fine and still progress the story. And then in one random spot, there'll be a game over where you have to redo that section again. I thought that was maybe poorly designed here and there. A few of the other things, though, I want to mention, I felt like towards the later half of the series, like after episode 3, maybe into 4 and 5, there was a lot more technical issues than there was in the first 2 episodes. Obviously, I think, plenty of people have talked about on social media some of the bugs and glitches that are in episode 5. I think that, they're all the way out there, like disappearing characters, characters that aren't really rendered out fully. In my case, we were talking about it before we started recording. I experienced a huge bug that wiped out my saved data, and I lost all my decisions from like the first 3 episodes, which I was pretty pissed off about. And, there was other instances where I experienced a crash or 2 during my time on PlayStation 4. I don't know about you guys specifically, but I know I had experiences with that. And there was a couple friends of mine that had crashes during the time they were playing. Like, did you guys experience any of those things?
Well, on the Xbox One version, I'll be very quick, Gary. On the Xbox One version, I didn't really have too many technical issues. The only issue I had was at the very end of episode 4, where it has that ending where it's like, I guess, depending on the decision that you make, it just ends abruptly. Well, when that ended, that was when the game just completely shut down. That was the only time I experienced any issues. And outside of that, just the regular frame drops that always happen on a regular basis. But I think the issue that you mentioned, though, is that's probably, because they decided they wanted to hurry up and get this game out. Because I know a lot of people was wondering whether or not they was going to, make a December deadline for this. And this episode came out kind of quicker compared to the other ones, because it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the episode 4. So, but that's still not, it's no excuse. They got to make sure that they iron out these issues beforehand. But what was you going to say, Gary?
oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I the only issues I experienced were frame rate dips and just technical hiccups here and there with the performance of the game. I was playing on PC and stuff, but I do have a friend. Shouts to Carl. He experienced a lot of problems. He's on PC as well. And a lot of this depends on your PC build and how it's set up and everything. But he was saying that he was experiencing crashes and a lot of visual glitches and stuff where it would black out. And also because he was playing with a controller, with the Xbox controller, and sometimes the inputs would be showing the keyboard inputs instead of the controller inputs. So that kind of threw him off and made him die and stuff like that. But I was playing with the keyboard and mouse, so I didn't experience any of those problems anyway. But yeah, I definitely think that Telltale need to work on this engine and work on all these bugs, because I mean I've seen it throughout all their games. To be honest, there's always some kind of technical issues, whether it's the frame rate dips or the visual glitches, the hiccups, the inputs. There's something always wrong with their games, so they need to definitely work on it.
Agreed. Yeah, and everybody's talked about that to death at this point. In every single game, every single season that comes out, like there's always something that kind of like brings the experience to a screeching halt, technically, like that. I don't understand why they haven't really kind of went back to the drawing board and really worked out on their engine. Maybe there's got to be a legit reason why like all these games are similar and have like very similar issues here and there. I'm pretty sure the same stuff we're complaining about now, or that I'm complaining about now, we saw it back in The Walking Dead. Even at the first series and such. But either way, with that being said, I want to jump back to the story and stuff, and I want to talk about the Batman villains themselves that we keep mentioning. I will be totally honest with you guys. After the first and second episode, I thought things were going to go a specific way with what type of villains they were going to utilize. And I thought we were going to get one extra Batman villain that did not appear in the game. When we got into the whole Arkham thing with the Children of Arkham, I swear to God, with how things were progressing, I thought that was going to be the Scarecrow, because everything leading up to the very end, I think it was of episode 3, I believe it is, when it has the abrupt, like, shocking ending. That was when I thought that because they were talking about drugs, that because they had this masked figure and then a person with a staff, like to me, it looked immediately like the Scarecrow, with the exception of like the staff and stuff. And that was the first thing that popped into my head, because who would the Penguin and all these other like Batman villains be like, revolving around? Who would they be interacting with? And I thought like that was the direction they were going to go with. But again, if you played the episodes, again, spoiler alert, it ends up being that Vicky Vale is the villain. She's called Lady Arkham, who's running pretty much the Children of Arkham, which I'm not going to lie to you guys. Some people thought that was cool and thought that was like a great decision. I didn't think so. I thought that the way that it was handled was very abrupt. It kind of came from left field. And I know that there's a section in episode 3 where they allude to it, where Batman or Bruce Wayne, depending on what you choose, meets with Vicky Vale in the Gotham Park. And he has a conversation with her, and she says that she got an interview with the Children of Arkham, and she won't tell Batman how she got that. And I thought that was going to be an interesting dynamic in the way that it was going to go, where you don't know if you could trust or not trust Vicky Vale and such, and what she's doing, because she's pretty much, what she prints will pretty much dictate how Gotham's going to view you, because they're going to be reading the newspaper. And I thought that would have been a cool direction to go with it if this was going to be the Scarecrow. But when I saw the ending of that episode and turned out that she was the mastermind behind everything, it just was one of those like, okay, what the hell? Like that totally threw me for a loop in the worst way possible, though. But I'm curious, what did you guys think of that, Gary? Did you enjoy that twist or not?
Yeah, that part in the park that you just described, like at that point I knew there was something sketchy about her. I knew like they were gonna do something with her at that point, but I didn't particularly know she was gonna turn out to be Lady Arkham or anything like that. But it didn't take me by surprise. I was just a bit like, okay, wow, like just lackluster shock kind of thing. Um, I agree. I'm not too fond of that decision to make her the enemy, because I think she would have been more interesting as just a reporter, with moral issues that she has to deal with, like whether to report against Bruce Wayne or befriend Bruce Wayne, and help him out and stuff like that. I think that would have been a better angle to play with her, and I feel like she could have had a really good long-term story in the series with Bruce Wayne if she was just a reporter, as Vicky Vale. But I mean, they did kind of, touch on why she became Lady Arkham, particularly in episode 5. You start to learn what made her, sort of turn and kill her parents and all that stuff. And the payoff wasn't that great, to be honest, but it was cool. I guess it was cool just to explain why, because that was very brutal, the way she killed her parents and stuff. It was very violent when you discover the bodies and you have to figure out what happened and everything. So it's cool that they kind of addressed that and showed why she did it, kind of thing. But outside of that, I still don't think they should have used her as the actual villain.
Yeah, I didn't feel it was earned. to be honest with you. But Rich, before I dive into it, tell me what you thought of this. Like again, I'm curious to see like where your mind was when you saw that twist.
Yeah, I have to agree that it definitely felt like it was a weak attempt to do it. I know you guys alluded to the fact that Scarecrow should have been the guy that they had chose instead. The reason why I think that decision wasn't made that way is because Scarecrow played a very important role in the last Arkham game.
Yeah.
I don't know if they wanted it to be too similar to that because people would have been making those comparisons. That's probably, I guess, why they decided to go in a different direction. But yeah, like Gary already said, when they met at the same place where in episode 1 there was a altercation with Penguin and some thugs, that told me, yeah, there's something's up with this character. Obviously, very sketchy, very dark character. I do think that, yeah, in episode 5, when they went into more detail about the backstory, about what is going on with the character, I felt like that was a little bit of information, but we still needed to know exactly why, more about this character and why she did what she did. Obviously, you saw, yes, the torture that she went through, and that played a role into why she had the behavior she had, why she killed her parents with so much force and gruesome nature. Yeah, but I feel like we needed more information, and I felt like there was a lot of other different avenues they could have went to explore, but I guess they decided, they wanted to throw people for a loop because they know Vicky Vale. We have seen that character in other times and other Batman properties. It has never been an evil character, so that's why I was like, okay, I guess they wanted to try and switch it up to make you think twice.
Yeah, and I think that was wrong, to be honest with you. I thought that was done more for the sake of being different. And to me, because I know Vicky Vale from like the comics and stuff, besides the Batman 89 movie and all the other cartoons and forms of media that are out there for Batman, we all know, or again, people that are Batman fans know Vicky Vale is the reporter that helps, try to unmask and try to kind of, discover the identity of Batman, basically. At least that's how she's been traditionally portrayed and such. And again, she's Bruce Wayne's love interest. And I thought like Telltale was missing out on a great opportunity to have interesting dilemma and interesting drama with the Bruce Wayne character while he's being Batman and while maybe he's growing some sort of strong connection to Vicky Vale, while also at the same time dealing with Catwoman when Catwoman is really introduced later on in the series after their encounter in the first episode. I think that there was a lot of potential loss for interesting drama throughout the storytelling there with the way that she became a villain. And the way that Gary mentioned how you get more information about that towards episode 4, 5. I want to say like you get more of it in episode 5 than you do in part 4. And like episode 3, you kind of don't get that because that's when the twist happens and stuff. But like episode 4, you don't really get a lot of that. There are hints to that, but then you kind of get like this quick wrap up of the Penguin arc, as well as all the other stuff dealing with Bruce Wayne's company and what Oswald Cobblepot did to his company in the wake of like episode 3 and such after that twist happens. And I felt like that was kind of like wrapped up way too quickly to focus on what was going on with Vicky Vale, with her being the main villain behind the scenes and stuff. And I just didn't feel like it came together all that well. I felt like the backstory that they gave her with her going through like a traumatic past and stuff, it's just like it kind of just didn't make sense in the context of everything. And I felt like at that point I lost a lot of like not care, but like there was some sort of emotion loss for me in as pretty much following Vicky Vale's story like that and her connection to Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like I felt like something else was missing or something was just totally lost on me between episode 3, 4, and 5.
You know what the problem was? Like I think Penguin should have been the main villain alongside Two-Face. Like
yeah,
because he was way more interesting, and obviously he has that personal connection to Bruce. So like that would have made a more interesting dynamic. But once the plot twist happens and you find out Lady Arkham is Vicky Vale, they kind of push Penguin to the side a little bit, and they
push Harvey to the side. And they push Harvey to the side. I felt like the way this series should have ended, I felt like now looking back on it, reflecting on it, Harvey Dent or Two-Face should have been the final confrontation because they build up Harvey Dent so much throughout the series. Like if anything, Bruce has the strongest connection to Harvey Dent over anybody else, with maybe the exception of Alfred throughout the entire series. And to me, I feel like the way that his arc ended and like how his confrontation between Bruce and Batman ends in episode 5 or yeah, I think it was episode 5 when it finally is, or episode 4, right? When he has the confrontation in the manor and stuff, depending on what you do. I felt the way that ended was kind of a little bit quick. It was a little bit sudden and stuff,
Well, actually,
and it should have been bigger.
Well, actually, because you touched on that topic, now I have to ask a question. Now, did you guys choose to confront him as Batman or Bruce Wayne? Because what I saw when I decided to confront him as Bruce Wayne is that, yeah, obviously, he eventually does get, apprehended by the authorities, but now he's talking about he wants to come back after Bruce. And so the grudge is still there, and I'm pretty sure they'll probably revisit that next season. But yeah, I just was curious, if you guys chose to approach him as Batman before or as Bruce Wayne.
And which one did you do, Gary?
Wait, which episode was this? Sorry,
5.
Episode 5.
Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you what. Go back to episode 4 when he was on the rooftop and he had ordered the hit. Now, because I think that also played into this. Did you approach him as Batman or Bruce Wayne? Because I approached him as Bruce Wayne twice.
Wait, were we talking Harvey or Penguin?
We're talking about Harvey.
Harvey. Okay, yeah. I went as Batman. No, I went as Bruce Wayne. My bad. Yeah, I went as Bruce Wayne. And I mean, all that happens is they have this little exchange. I can't remember exactly what was said, but and then he blows up that building, and
and he threatens to kill Bruce. Again, they apprehend Bruce. The guards try to kill him.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a different experience than both guys. Because here's the thing: the first time I confronted him on episode 4, I did it as Batman. I did that, and they had an interesting conversation where Harvey blows up that area, and he blows up the drugs that Lady Arkham had at that point. And afterwards, when Batman's like, oh, what the hell did you just do? They try to shoot him, and he just kind of like runs away because he has to go deal with all that stuff. And then the second time that was in episode 5, after when he's inside the mansion and stuff, because before then, at the end of episode 4, I chose, or no, and I think it was episode 4 or 5, where you have to choose either to go after Harvey at the mansion or you have to go after Penguin at Wayne Enterprises to save your tech.
That's 4. That's episode 4.
Okay, episode 4. So I chose to go after Penguin in that instance, and Harvey burned down my mansion, and Alfred went to the Batcave. But then in episode 5, when I went to go confront him again for the second time like that, I chose to go as Bruce Wayne because he was asking for Bruce Wayne. He had hostages, and I went like that. Now, that whole experience, granted, I was still going as the good Batman. I didn't get that whole grudge thing like what you mentioned before, Rich, where is that I'm going to come back after you type of thing. He doesn't do that in my game. He actually, because I was such a good friend to him and stuff, he said that, that he wanted to be a good person again. Something along those lines like that, where he still gets apprehended and arrested, and I guess he gets sent to Arkham, but he doesn't have that grudge towards the end of it like that. And mind you, besides the bug stuff that I experienced and stuff, he still looked like Harvey Dent. He didn't look like Two-Face with the scarred up face like that. But really, I still feel like even then, he should have been the climactic encounter or the climactic confrontation throughout the entire series, because they built up Harvey Dent so much throughout the entire series, right from the very first episode. And when they go to the twist to Lady Arkham, and you finally experience it at the end when you actually fight her and like you're trying to save Alfred and that whole thing, I felt like she didn't earn that. They kind of like gave her the climax and like the big finale of the series when it should have gone to Harvey Dent. I felt like Harvey Dent should have, either as Bruce Wayne or Batman, that should have been a big encounter towards the end of the series.
Yeah, I agree. It could have been the ending encounter. But Rich, I've got a question. So what happens in episode 5 if at the end of episode 4 you chose to go to the mansion instead of get Penguin? How do they address Penguin in episode 5?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, because I made the same choice that JJ made, in which I decided to go and I need my Wayne tech. I had to make sure that I stopped that.
So you did it too. Okay.
But what he is saying is accurate, because when I did go back to the match, when I went to the match in episode 5, Harvey was still pissed, because of, when, of course, the relationship with Selena, which is another thing. I know you guys mentioned the drama That was one thing that was a high drama situation. But because of that, because if you recall, when you go back to that happened in episode 3.
Yeah.
You do have an option when you guys fight whether or not to really beat the hell out of him. I didn't. I tried
did.
to
I was a pacifist. I was the guy that he just didn't throw a punch and he just kept swinging at me and he tired himself out.
Wait,
Okay, yeah.
tell me you smashed though.
No, I did. Yeah. Oh yeah, I did smash. Yeah, I did. Of course. Like that was for me. That was like a clear decision because in my head, like Bruce Wayne and Catwoman, or Bruce Wayne, Selina Kyle, or Batman and Catwoman are together like that. I think that's cool. And that way, by the way, it only proves my point even more because that whole situation, even if you didn't have that encounter, okay, but included that in there, that still builds up the conflict between Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent. And again, what is it? Vicky Vale's not a factor in any of that stuff whatsoever, which is crazy because again, that only just supports that the Harvey Dent should have been the final confrontation.
And while you are 100% on the ball about why that should have been the confrontation, just like you said, that is built up all the way up until the 5th episode, because even when the episode starts, they have a flashback to a conversation when Bruce said that, yes, I'll back you. And then that fast forwards to the future where you see now Harvey has a innocent person at gunpoint. So yeah, they should have played that up because they built it up for the longest time. He had struggles about how he was going to handle his position, all the stuff that had happened. By the way, I did save Harvey also instead of Catwoman back in episode 2. And as a result of that, his face wasn't messed up. He just went crazy because he got injected with that serum. Yeah.
Pretty much. But let me ask you guys this, and I want to go back to Catwoman for a second. What did you guys think of her entire arc? Because she leaves, I think it's episode 5 she leaves, or episode 4 where she leaves, where again, they kind of go back to that whole situation again with Harvey Dent and Harvey Dent walking in on them and that whole thing. Did you think like they handled Catwoman very well? Like I see a lot of people on social media, getting hung up on either, again, the sex scene or getting up on the fact that she's a sexualized female character stuff, which I think it's a mute argument because Catwoman has always been like that. And I think that that's part of her personality and stuff. But what did you guys think about her leaving? Because the first time in the mansion, when she goes to stay at the Wayne estate and she leaves there, I thought that was very rushed in that one episode. And then they go back to her again in the very next episode. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I thought like we were losing out on Catwoman like prematurely and stuff. But what did you think of all that?
Let me firstly just say those people complaining are stupid because like, aren't you allowed to have romance in a story anymore? Like,
yeah, exactly. Right.
But yeah, as for Catwoman, I actually think she was well done in the series. Because sometimes she's in the forefront and then sometimes she plays a background role while other things are progressing, and I was okay with that. It is a bit abrupt how she decides to leave in that one episode, but then at least you get the conclusion in episode 5, because they meet up again and have that moment, and it makes it seem like there's going to be more in maybe the next season. So I'm fine with how they did Catwoman, to be honest.
Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I think that she should have came back towards the very end in the final confrontation, because I think that would have been a nice wrap up, because when she leaves, it's clear to me, like what you said, it's a clear setup for whatever they're going to do in season 2. Just like how the ending of this entire season, they leave it on a cliffhanger for season 2 of like what's going to go down, based on the stuff that happens with the Joker in Arkham Asylum, which I could have dealt completely without. To be totally honest with you, I think that was not needed, to be honest with you. I think that was something that almost served no purpose in the grand scheme of things. But I still feel that if anything, depending on your decision, I would have loved it if, depending on your decisions on the conversations you have with Catwoman, if she would have came back to help you out during the final confrontation with Vicky Vale. I think that would have been an actual cool moment. Or again, if it was done more in the way that I felt like it should have been in the final confrontation with Harvey Dent, that would have been awesome.
If it, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead first.
I was gonna say, if it was Harvey Dent that was the final villain, then yeah, I'd be okay with her like coming back, because then she relates to their tension anyway. So that would be, a nice add-on to have her come back and rescue Bruce or whatever, or help him. But I'm fine with her not coming back to help with the Vicky Vale thing, because I feel like it was a good way to conclude her storyline this season. You know, that moment they have, I feel like that was fine because it leaves it open for her to return anyway, and for the dialogue to continue between them. So yeah.
Yeah, I just was gonna say the only reason why I didn't think she did return. Once again, I think Telltale wanted to be a little bit original or different in their approach, because if you recall, to look at another Batman property, the last
Arkham.
Dark Knight. Oh yeah,
Yep,
well,
you're
oh,
right.
yeah,
You're right.
Arkham, but also that last Christopher Nolan Batman movie where Batgirl came back to help Bruce Wayne.
You mean Catwoman? You
Catwoman.
mean Catwoman came back?
Yeah, Catwoman. That's it. Sorry. Yeah, I was distracted. Yeah, she came back to help Bruce Wayne at the end of that movie also. So I guess they said they wanted to try and go in a different direction. But I do agree, would have been great for her to come back, just, but obviously, I guess they want to leave some things, up in the air for next season. But I did want to make a quick comment about the Joker. I do agree that, I know that there has been a lot of people saying that they felt like he was shoehorned in there. I agree 100% with that, because all of the second season could have been about the Joker. And I think it is going to be about the Joker now because of how it ended this particular season. But I just think, obviously, I guess they wanted to make sure that they got every character in there to set up future opportunities. But they didn't need to rush that. I thought it was interesting how the Joker knew everything. He knew everybody. He knew everything. That was
Yeah,
going
which
on
made
in
no
Gotham.
sense, by the way. It made no sense. They never explained it, like how he knows that Vicky Vale is Lady Arkham. They never touched on that, and I don't think they ever will. That's one of those plot holes that was just, just for the sake of, argument with the series, you just got to keep moving past or just looking past like that. And I think that's stupid, because I think that if you would have not had the Joker, you wouldn't have had none of those problems. And I felt like it would have been a better story overall. Like that whole time when he's in Arkham Asylum, like it could have been totally different without him.
Oh, good.
Oh no, this will be quick. And two things in particular about the Joker that I was really confused outside of just what you said. Number one, the key that he gave you. I was never able to use that key at any point. So I didn't know what was the purpose of the key.
That was for the door. That was actually for the gate that he actually gives that to you. When you go to make the phone call, when stuff starts going down, you use that key. Or you can use it to open the chest.
Okay. See, because I went in that direction. I wasn't able to use the key.
And I never did it because I was playing the good Batman, but I figured that if I did that, it would have hurt me and it would have been more like a more bad thing to do in that situation. So I never used it.
Okay, and the other thing about if you do decide to work with the Joker, about the favor that you will owe him later, that is never revisited. So I'm assuming that will have to be revisited in the next game.
Easily.
Yeah. So no, go ahead, Gary. What was you going to say?
Yeah, there's been a lot of criticism about the Joker, being shoehorned into the story and stuff. But I'm one of the people who actually didn't have a problem with him being in it. Now, granted, I will say that they could have possibly waited until like a season 3 or something to introduce him. But I had no issues with how they implemented him into the series. My main issue is just his character design, to be honest. But and I don't think it's too far-fetched that he would know who Vicky Vale is, because basically she's been breaking into Arkham, and Joker clearly is, he's kind of secretly running Arkham in his own way, because he's able to manipulate the guards and stuff and pretty much do what he wants and act as a prisoner when really he's in control of himself. The only flaw there is how he couldn't have broken out sooner, because like if he's pretty much running Arkham at that point, like he's manipulating the guards, he could have got out a lot sooner than when he did. But yeah, I had no issues with that, and I do feel like he probably could know that Vicky Vale is Lady Arkham, because he clearly knows a lot about Arkham, and he probably knows a lot of secrets. He probably knows how to get underground where she was and everything, and he might have actually seen or overheard things. So I feel like that, that's possible. And yeah, as for the ending, him at the ending, I kind of saw it coming. Like I had a feeling there would be like a little quick clip of the Joker just to let us know, he's out and he's coming in the next season or what have you. So I was kind of
Yeah.
expecting that.
Yeah, I would be totally down with you on all of that if they would actually shown it, or at least shown something that hinted at it a little bit better. Because in what they show now, both in episode 4 and even arguably episode 5, they don't show anything or really give any sort of like insight of like maybe how or why that might have been the case. Now, I will say, the very end of episode 5, where Commissioner Gordon is giving that speech, and then somebody just randomly attacks him, and then they show the Joker afterwards. Now, I initially, thinking back on it, I thought that was someone the Joker had sent to them, but it doesn't really kind of come off like that. He's just like watching and he sees that go down. And again, it just feels like something that was randomly thrown in there. And my point is that there's a lot of decisions throughout all the episodes that I feel like are just kind of random. And even then, they're kind of very hard and very, you have to really reach to kind of like, say that they're going to be things that are setting up for the second season. Like, I would love now, after everything that's happened with the series, if they go in a direction not only implementing the Joker there, but even starting to get more into the territory of Robin. Like, I feel like now they could start to really kind of open things up a little bit with this series and start to really kind of explore other territory with it. Because I feel like now you already got the establishment that Batman's part of this world. You already have like some of the characters that are in there, and there's history here and such. But now I want to see them start going to branch off into much more crazier territory while still having a solid narrative and stuff. If they could fix like some of the narrative problems I have with this season, I feel like season 2 is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, you know what I would like for season 2? I would like, because, okay, the Joker's out, but I would like for him to really play more of a background role throughout season 2 while there's a focus on, a different villain. And then, in the background, the Joker's kind of building up power and manipulating things. And then, he kind of comes to the forefront towards the end of season 2, and then he'll be like the main villain throughout season 3 or something like that. So I would like a bit more of a build up with his character before he becomes like the main, guy or what have you.
I feel like we're getting that now, though. However,
well, just to piggyback off of what Gary just says, I think for that to happen further, they probably maybe not. They might have to introduce a reason as to why he has an issue with Batman and wants to go after Batman. Now, obviously, if he was the one that sent that guy at the end to try to assassinate Gordon, that's another thing, because then now okay, so he doesn't want to see Gordon become the commissioner. But yeah, I feel like they possibly need to explain why he has this issue with Batman, why there is this whole thing about now he wants to try to run the city. So I don't really know how they're going to do that. But one thing I was going to say, as for the second season, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, now that they've introduced the story about Bruce has a family that was corrupt, I really think that they need to play that up a little bit further, that Bruce also is tempted to be corrupt as well. I'm not saying that you need to make the decisions to be a bad Batman, but they probably need to play that up a little bit further just to emphasize that he's still dealing with this issue, just to see, because again, they've already built the foundation. Now you can make brutal decisions in this game, like you beat up a guard, you can break their arm if you want to. They've already had some of that stuff in this game, but I feel like they have to continue to play that up moving forward, since it was already established that he has this whole secret about his family now. But yeah, that's all I was gonna say.
Wait,
I agree.
Real quick, did you guys say that that dude tried to kill Commissioner Gordon? Because in mine, he tried to kill Bruce.
No, because you went as Bruce Wayne. In mine, I went as Batman because I went to go support Gordon.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that changes it up differently. And if you go as Bruce Wayne, I know that's what happens there. But when you go as Batman, you actually go and you're away from the crowd and you support Gordon. Like, you give him a pep talk before he goes and gives a speech. And I think as Bruce Wayne, you go and publicly endorse him in front of Gotham, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, that's basically that's I guess is a little bit different, but even then it's still kind of the same thing where it's kind of implied that the Joker sent that dude over there. The other thing too, I think that we also have to mention is that during that scene when he's in Arkham and he's talking to the Joker and they're talking about Vicky Vale and stuff, it's almost implied that the Joker knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Like
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
briefly.
that's what I was
And
thinking.
they never explain that, and they lightly touch on it, but it's the same thing. Is like they never explain why the Joker kind of knows all these things. Now, initially, now talking about it, I would think that if that's the case, and maybe he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman and stuff, has to something to do with Bruce Wayne's father. Because again, since he did all that stuff in Arkham, and maybe that's a good way to tie in the Joker in the second season and stuff. But again, they never really kind of dive into any of that, and it's very, very vague at this point.
One other question too, and I really hate to nitpick, but when we had the scenario when people and Arkham were getting let loose, where the hell was Harvey Dent at? Wasn't he sent to Arkham?
He was escaping.
Who,
Oh, he
Harvey
was.
Dent?
Yeah. When they arrested,
No. He in my game he got arrested by the police, so I assumed that he went to jail. He didn't go to Arkham.
Okay.
I thought he was going to Arkham because like Bruce was talking about he needs help and stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why-
I heard that.
No, I never got that because I think they would have said it if that was the case. And if anything, that would have been more interesting, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But to go back to Rich's point, and he brings up a good point where they need to play up the whole dichotomy, or at least the dilemma of being a bad or making bad decisions or immoral decisions in the second season, because they did it in the beginning of this season and they lost it towards the end, in my opinion. I felt like, again, maybe that could have been my game where I was going more of the good route, but I never felt that I had decisions or I had to make a decision that would kind of really played that line as much as they did in the beginning of it, where I feel like you should be able to be a real dick of a person as Bruce Wayne in the second season. Like you have to have those options to be like what you said, since his father was a bad individual and they kind of like talk about it and stuff, but you still have the potential of still becoming a bad individual as Bruce Wayne, even though you're still Bruce Wayne Batman in this world in Gotham City.
Yeah, you know what the problem is? Because I really would like there to be bigger decisions that you can make that have a lasting impact on everything. But like the way these Telltale games are structured, it's like they're all small little seasons and stuff, and they have to keep producing the episodes. It needs to be very tightly knit, I think, and for that reason, they can't get too complex with the different decisions and how they impact the game. Now, I do think they did a good job with some aspects, particularly with the Harvey Dent stuff, the Two-Face. And there's a few things they did a good job on with the decision making, but we're never going to get anything on the scale of like a Mass Effect or anything like that in a Telltale game, because it would just be too complex and too many variables for them.
Well, the only choice that you would get is, if you choose, like in Walking Dead, you choose to save this person, well, then the other person dies and all this other stuff. That's the
And we didn't get
of,
that in this game. We never got something like that in this game whatsoever. I mean, they tried it when you had to either go to Penguin at Wayne Tower or go save Alfred at Wayne Manor and stuff. There was a couple instances like that, but it wasn't like in that same level of like you have to suffer consequences for your decision. And they kind of built that up before the game came out, like especially in the first like episode or two. They kind of alluded to that, and they almost really hyped it up where it's going to be like that. Like your choices will have consequences. And then after the second or third episode, I didn't feel that anymore whatsoever.
I guess to them, the situation where you had to either save Harvey or Selina, I guess that was to the extent that they figure, okay, that's far enough. Because if you don't save Harvey, then his face gets jacked up, and that's leads to him becoming Two-Face. But because I saved Harvey, he still ended up becoming evil in the end. He just didn't look as ugly as he looks when he's Two-Face. But yeah, they could have did a better job with that. They need to really consider some of these things moving forward, as they get into the next season, though, I would say.
And you know something? I think that they need to be a little bit more ambiguous with season 2, where I felt like throughout this entire season, they heavily encourage you to take the Bruce Wayne route on a lot of stuff. Like, every time, like when Alfred's talking about, you know, whatever decision you're going to make and such, it almost is always a little bit much more of a push towards being Bruce Wayne over Batman. And I noticed that like a bunch of times throughout all the episodes. And I feel like maybe if they were a little bit much more gray and a little bit much more kind of step back from that and really kind of like, you know, be like, hey, listen, you have two choices here. What do you want to do? Rather than be like, oh, you could go as Bruce Wayne and really kind of do all this stuff, or you could go as Batman. You know, and that's how I felt like it was like every time that showed up.
Yeah, I agree. And there's only like one time I remember selecting Batman, and that was when you go to see the mayor, I think. Like the mayor before.
Oh, I went as Bruce Wayne. Believe it or not, I went as Bruce like that. I went as Bruce. When that situation happened, I went as Bruce Wayne instead.
Now, let me ask a quick question. Now, when you went as Batman, were you aggressive with the mayor? Because, you know, you did have an option to, you know, try to force him, like try to threaten him to get him, you know, to bend your will to, you know, to do what you're saying, or you didn't take that approach.
No, I did it more where I wasn't gonna go. I'd made decisions where I wasn't gonna be corrupt like he was. Like he was saying something like I had to drop my funding for Dent or I had to stop doing something for Dent.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, I'm not gonna leave my boy out there like that. I'm not gonna do that to Harvey Dent. And I said no. And then he got really upset about it like that. And then I think at one point he ended up throwing me out of his office. I think it was at one point.
That's interesting. Yeah. No,
but
continue,
but I want to
Gary.
see that more in season 2 is what I'm saying. I want to see more of that ambiguousness in season 2.
I agree. We need to see more of that. I think they've done a good job of introducing Gotham City, some of the characters. But yeah, they have to dive a lot deeper into a lot of these things to really make it even better for next season.
Yeah, I do think they could do a lot more work on the portions where you actually play as Batman, because in this series it felt like playing as Batman was more like a change of pace into a more actiony type of gameplay, whereas I feel like Bruce Wayne had the actual standout moments in the series.
Yeah.
Well, I think towards the end, when you're Batman, especially when you're pursuing Lady Arkham, I think that obviously there were little instances that were standouts. Like the very end, like
that was a good sequence.
Did you guys decide to reveal your identity to save Alfred? Because I did.
Oh, you did.
And I felt,
what happened?
Well, the thing is, I felt like the way that the events played out, it wasn't earned. I felt like in that instance where you were trying, in my case, Bruce Wayne was trying to show Vicky Vale that, like, listen, I understand what you're going through, you know, that you're damaged and you've had a lot of hardships and stuff. I got that, but I didn't feel like it was earned. And when it happened, and when I finally revealed my identity, and Alfred's like, no, don't do it. It didn't really, there was almost no weight to it, because then you go into like this big fight sequence with Vicky Vale, which, by the way, when did Vicky Vale become like a crazy martial artist and stuff? That pulled me out. Like, I got it. It was the climax and stuff, but like, nah, that was one of those instances. It was like, okay, guys, I think you're far overreaching here at this point. Right. Now, had it been a much more diluted fight, like a much more kind of like, you know, a calmer fight where it wasn't like in the same way where Batman was fighting an actual supervillain and stuff, then maybe I would have bought it a little bit more and I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. And I would have been like, okay, this kind of, you know, I could roll with this. But that wasn't the case in my game like that. Like, it just, when he revealed his identity, it didn't feel like it had a lot of weight behind it.
What surprised me about Vicky Vale was that she was able to murder her parents so precisely in wearing high heel shoes. Like, that was incredible.
Yeah, right.
She was jumping
didn't make
all
sense.
over the place.
Like, you know something? They didn't even really explain. They never explained where she got her tech from. Like, I was trying to assume that, like, she got all her stuff from Wayne Enterprises. Like, she got Wayne tech somehow. Like, they never explained that. They never explained, well, how she became, like, she did all this stuff and whatnot. When you go to that lair in the final part of episode 5, it shows, like, you know, different chemicals and stuff where I guess she was making the drugs that she was using at one point. But again, they never really addressed that. It's kind of glossed over and everything just is like, go, go, go. And then you get into that big fight sequence and such.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to add one thing. I know you said that you revealed your identity. I didn't reveal my identity. And for that, you know, Alfred got, I guess you could say he got hit in the eye very badly. It's like it was almost as he got shot with that compulsion, you know, beam that she had. And now at the end of the episode, he had to wear an eye patch.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, wow. Oh
Yeah.
wow. In mine, when I reveal my identity, like she shot her staff and actually cut off a little part of Bruce Wayne's ear in mine. And
Whoa.
the and at
Whoa.
the very end, right? At the very end, after everything is all settled and done and stuff, like they're talking about what went down, him and Alfred in Wayne Manor, and it shows like the ear, like there's a big chunk of Bruce Wayne's ear that's missing, like his lobe and such. And it's like, and Alfred's like, yo, something that gives you character and such. Like they kind of poke fun at it a little bit, but it was one of those things where it was like, okay, it just kind of was just that random little thing there, and I'm curious to see if that maybe plays a part in season 2 at one point. Like again, like maybe there people start to get more on the fact, like maybe they're starting to discover that Bruce Wayne is Batman. That'll be kind of interesting and such. But other than that's what happened in my game.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
I like the idea of Alfred getting an eye patch. That sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah, because he gets hit with that, and then at the end of it, it's just like it's like you kind of feel sorry for Alfred, but you come to a mutual understanding that it's okay. This is the stuff that happens. Batman still has a job to do. So, but that's interesting. I didn't know that that's how they would end that particular exchange when you did show yourself. So I got to see that.
Yeah, I didn't want to because I didn't want to give her what she wanted because she wanted to know who Batman was. I didn't want to give it to her.
Yeah, she didn't
Like
deserve that.
at the end of your games, right? She died, right? Because the whole thing fell on top of her, right? That's what happened
Yeah.
in my game.
Well,
Okay, so
that's what they want you to believe, that she is dead. I don't know if
no, she's dead. Like that looked like she had a whole giant rock fall on her. Like that, she's done pretty much. But again, like I go back to the thing, like that whole sequence where you could choose to reveal your identity or not, and if you do it, it doesn't have a lot of weight behind it. It doesn't feel earned. But also, I feel like her whole reasoning for going after Alfred and kidnapping him wasn't earned at the same way, at the same point. Like it just feel like, again, there was almost like that was another element that was shoehorned in to tie Lady Arkham into being the main villain of what was going on, and why Bruce Wayne needs to stop everything, and everything else has to go to the side to go pursue her like that. And that was another thing that I feel like wasn't handled that very well.
And one thing I will say about Alfred, and I'm very surprised, for a much older man, he sure could take an ass whooping, because he got beat up that whole sequence.
He could deliver an ass whooping, like the whole sequence when you're putting it together in Wayne Manor when you first go over there and you're trying to figure out what happened. It's like, yo, Alfred's messing people up, like seriously. For an old man, he's been wrecking people over there. But again, I just go back to that, where that whole chain of events leading up into the end, to me, it wasn't handled that very well. It could have been a little bit better, and another reason for me why Harvey should have been the final confrontation.
Yeah. Like you said, you made a very good point. They built up Harvey so much throughout every episode. You would think it was going to get to that, and then for him to be the first person you encounter in the final episode, and then that's it. Yeah, that feels like it's a lot. It's a lot more that should have been that should have came with that. But I do agree. Yeah, that character was it's just a lot of things. The whole reason why she went after Alfred is obviously the whole thing of them playing about she wants to get revenge on the Waynes, and Alfred knew about all this other stuff, so she has to pay the price, which again wasn't really a strong enough point. Not when you compare the relationship between Bruce and Harvey, because they had a lot going together as friends. So yeah, they probably should have made better use of that. But I guess they thought it was cooler to take this different approach with Vicky Vale, so they say, yeah, we're just going to do this. I guess. You gonna say something, Gary?
Oh no.
Okay, so let me ask you guys the big question before we wrap up and stuff.
Okay.
And I mentioned it before. I mentioned Robin before for season 2. I think like now for season 2, I think now you could start getting into a little bit much more of that crazier territory with the mythology and like implementing other characters into this Telltale series. I want to see an arc where it builds up to Batman and Robin towards the end of the second season, because I think that's the next logical step to go towards, besides everybody else. Now I know there's a lot of Batman fans out there that would rather it just be Batman alone, and I think that is great. If they decide to do that, I'd be totally fine with it. But what do you guys think of that? Like, do you think like that's the territory they should go to for season 2?
I'm gonna be 100% honest. I'm not the biggest Robin fan, and I feel like the only reason they should implement Robin in this story is so the Joker can kill him.
No, I think that's good. I think that would be actually kind of cool because then that would make the Joker a much more bigger villain in that season. Because the Death in the Family arc in the comics is a really big arc when he kills Jason Todd like that. That's a huge deal for the Batman mythology in the comics and stuff. If they went that route and that was a big slow buildup throughout the season, that could be awesome.
Yeah, that's the only way I'd want to see Robin if the Joker kills him. But other than that, nah, I wouldn't. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I do agree that would be a great arc to have. The only reason why I would be hesitant to include Robin in the whole of next season is because I want them to I think it may be an issue if they put a little bit of focus on him when they should be focusing on Bruce Wayne and Batman collectively and dividing up the time you are with that respective character. But yeah, if you did use him in that context, you have him get killed by Joker, that would be fantastic. Again, one thing that I did see in this particular season, I didn't really get the sense that Joker was dangerous. I didn't see him trying to hurt anybody or anything like that. So I have to see that now moving forward. But just an idea.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the cool aspects about the Joker, because like he doesn't always have to look physically threatening. It's just the fact that he's so psychotic. That's that's what's interesting about him. And I don't like the character design of this one. I think he could look a lot better. But
he has to look a lot more crazy. Are you saying?
Yeah,
he looks bland.
Yeah,
he looks very bland in this game. Like, granted, he doesn't have the red lips like the crazy. Like, the design they went with him is something that's like a very brief moment from Batman. What was it? The Dark Knight Returns. That comic arc where again you have like the pale white, bland looking Joker when he's in Arkham Asylum. I get that. I totally understand that, and that's how he looks by the end of the game and such. But it didn't really bother me as much, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, so. Let's kind of start wrapping things up. Let's get some final thoughts on Batman, the Telltale series. Let's start off with you, Rich. Yay or nay? Good series, good season. Are you excited for season 2? Do you think everybody should play this right now if they'd ever played a Telltale game?
I absolutely think everybody should play it. Like I said at the beginning of this show, I do think it's one of the better Telltale games. Now, obviously, I'm a big Walking Dead fan. I'm hoping the season 3 is going to be good. I have no idea, but I would recommend this if you are into Batman. But you have to know going into this, it's going to be different. You can't expect the characters to be the same. You can't expect certain things to be the same as they were in the comics. So just go into that. But it's a fun game, definitely worth playing.
Cool. What about you, Gary? Yay or nay? Same stuff. Batman, the Telltale series, season 1.
Before I give my summary, I got a really quick question for you guys. So like at the start of episode 5, when Batman's kind of fighting off the corrupted officials with Commissioner Gordon, was there a part where Batman was in trouble and then Gordon straight up shoots a guy with
he shot him in the face with a shotgun, right?
Yeah, like why does Batman condone that? He's not supposed to condone that.
Yeah, you know something? They never address that in the series. And there's some people that straight up kill others. I'm not talking about the villains. I'm talking about the heroes like Gordon, a few of the police officers that are working with Gordon and Batman that straight up kill people. And they never address it.
Because he could have just bought him with the end of the shotgun or something to knock him out, but he straight up just shot him in the head. Like that's
he had to make
point blank.
He had to make sure he was dead. He had to make sure he wasn't coming back.
He was KO'd like straight up, like it was over.
Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, as for my thoughts, I definitely feel like this is one of the better Telltale series. I think it's up there with the Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead season 1. And I haven't played the Borderlands one yet, but I hear that's a really good one too. But yeah, I definitely feel like this is one of the best Telltale series, so I recommend everybody go play it. And I really look forward to season 2.
Yeah, ditto pretty much on everything that you two guys said. I think it's a good game as far as if you're a Batman fan, if you're curious about the Batman mythology and just want a fresh start, without any other like stuff that's influencing you. I think this is a fun story to kind of follow despite my little issues and despite some of my problems with it, I still think it's a great series overall. And I am excited for season 2. I really am curious to see what direction they go with it. Again, I would love to go in a lot more of that crazier territory with the Batman mythology. I would be very curious to know if they decide to go more DC Universe stuff at some point. I think they're very limited, though, in what they could possibly do as far as like just sticking to the Batman mythology. Like, because, at some point, you have to kind of, think about DC Universe type of stuff where, is Batman going to run into other heroes in this universe, in this stuff? Like, can Superman somehow be implemented into what's going on in the Batman mythology here? Like, again, it doesn't have to be a Superman or Justice League story, but there are comics that are specifically Batman stories where another DC hero will show up like that. That isn't necessarily originating from the Batman mythology, but I'm curious to see what direction they go. A lot of people would much more keep it within that realm of just Batman stuff. And I think no matter what they decide to do, it's going to be interesting. So I can't wait for season 2. So overall, I recommend it, definitely checking it out and such. But with that being said, though, that was our discussion, guys, on Batman, the Telltale series for season 1, pretty much episodes 1 through 5. I'm pretty sure eventually when they decide to do a season 2, we'll probably do another one of these. At one point where we'll kind of like discuss everything and see where it goes from there. Make sure that you guys leave a like on this video, subscribe to the Koalition's YouTube channel, check out our website, thekoalition.com, for all our reviews, all our news posts, all our coverage and content about Batman, the Telltale series, as well as a bunch of other video game stuff. So any final shout outs from you guys that you want to kind of, give some nods to?
Yeah, shout outs to all of our supporters, at the Koalition, all of the Patreon supporters, and everyone on Twitter who helped us out today when we had a little sourcing issue. Shout outs to all those guys, and shout outs to Emilio Lopez as well.
Yeah, I would also like to give a shout out to Emilio Lopez as well, for the excellent story that he broke earlier today. Give a shout out to all the fans that have continued to support us. We do have more great stuff coming for you guys, so stay tuned. And shout out to Telltale. Good job. I'm looking forward to Walking Dead season 3, so please do not let me down.
Yeah, same thing here. Ditto on all of that. Shout out to Manny for doing some great work. Shout out to all the fans, the viewers, the readers, the commenters, everybody that, interacts on our content on the website as well as the YouTube channel. Everybody that's in the chat now that's probably watching this. Shout out to the Patreon supporters for showing us some love, showing us support, allowing us to keep providing you guys with some great content. If you haven't already, we already today just put up the Final Fantasy 15 discussion that me and Gary and Max had not too long ago for our Patreon supporters, but we decided to give it free to everybody as a thank you for everybody that's supporting us and stuff. So you guys got an early Christmas gift or whatnot from all of us. But definitely, again, big thank you to everybody that's been showing us all support here, to everybody that's on the site and such. So that being said, guys, we will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out. Stay epic, everybody. Enjoy your holidays.